Hello, time here, HobbiesofaMan. Once again, today we're doing another anime review, or animation review, I guess. We're going to be looking at Volume 2 of Visions, Star Wars Visions. It has 9 episodes, and it's a worldwide kind of thing, so... one of them is from people that work in California, and then everything else is from different places in the world. The first one's from Spain, the second one is from Ireland, the third one, I think, is from Chile or Peru or something. The fourth one is from England. The fifth one is from, technically I think it's from Japan, but the studio's from Korea, because it's Studio Mir. Then we have the sixth one, which is from France. The seventh one is from India, and it's pretty cool, actually. The eighth one is from the American studio, Dark Studio. And episode 9 is from Triggerfish, who I think they're from somewhere in Asia, but I'm not really sure, so correct me if I'm wrong. Let me actually double check it right here. Let me pull out my iPad and make sure that I got it correctly. So, apologies. Visions to studio list. Triggerfish is from South Africa, which actually kind of makes sense now. So there you go. The last one is from South Africa, which is cool. I'm very curious if they're going to do another one of these where they have worldwide involvement, because I would really like to see one from Anima Studios, which is a Mexican studio. They did the cartoon version of El Chavo del Ocho, or The Kid from 8th Street, and I would really like to see them do something in the vein of that show, but with Star Wars characters. I think it'd be really, really funny to just have like Obi-Wan Kenobi as Don Ramon, and Anakin as El Chavo, and other characters as other members of the crew from El Chavo del Ocho. So yeah, let's get talking about the story here. I'm not really sure how to do this. I'm going to give you my general impressions, and then I'll tell you a little bit about each episode, right? So generally speaking, I think this is in the same kind of realm of enjoyment as the first one. However, I do think that there's a little bit more emotion to these, but less plot to them, if that makes sense. So the first ones I think were all pretty clearly like initially planned with, these end, and that's all there is to them. I'm not really sure that that's the case in this set of stories, but the ones from the first volume also felt like they were complete. It was this like moment of storytelling, and it taught you something and took you from one place to the other for most of these kids, and it worked. The second one doesn't really, or like, it obviously does that because it has to, because that's how storytelling works, but the point of the stories isn't as clear-cut as in the first one. There's a lot more kind of celebration of art, and kind of just the idea of, like, how can we experiment with the stuff that we have available to us. And I think that's interesting. It's not better or worse, it's just different. And sometimes I felt like it was slightly detrimental to my enjoyment, and then sometimes I thought it was really, really poignant and really interesting. So kind of, your mileage may vary in that sense, right? In general, I had a good time watching these. I watched these in little 3-episode chunks, so I took 3 days to watch this. I watched the first one over dinner the other day. Yesterday, after I was done studying, I felt like, recharging, not doing anything, being a bit of a vegetable for a while. So I watched the next set of 3, and then today, earlier today, I just decided to sit down and watch the last 3. Not necessarily because I needed some relaxation time, but just because I wanted to get it done. I wanted to see how I felt about them and to get this video out to you guys. So generally speaking, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I think generally speaking, I do like the first volume better than this volume because I'm much more of a fan of the Japanese manga anime type style animation than most of the animation styles that were used in this volume, right? It's not necessarily because one is better than the other, it's just a preference, right? However, I did find the, fact that all of these were different to be pretty enjoyable and interesting, right? So yeah, let's get talking about each of them individually. So the Sith is from Spain. I didn't really love the story here because it was a little bit too artistic, too impressionist, too kind of like just about the vibes for my taste. But I did find my enjoyment of this rising a little bit because the voice actress for this was actually Ursula Corbero, who is the actress that portrays Tokyo in Money Heist, which is an awesome show, and I really love her as an actress, and I think she's super hot, but that is beyond the point, right? So I liked her. However, I do think that she needs work with voice acting because sometimes the line delivery was a little bit too boring for my taste. But I found her character interesting. I liked the design of the bad guy in this one, and even though I didn't really love this idea of like the visual aspect of paint being part of the storytelling, because I really don't like when it's like it's not really there, like it's not supposed to be there, but they still decided to do it. So I don't know, it doesn't work for me. So I didn't really like it all that much in that sense. I liked the story, I thought it was cool. I liked certain elements of the fact that, there was this little robot that had like a little cannon to it, which was cool. She had this like Reva spike, which is awesome. I like that one. And some of the images that were created when she was using the Force with paint was were very beautiful looking. So overall, I think this would be like a 7 out of 10. I found it to be enjoyable, but not that great. The gimmick of the painting wasn't my favorite, but it was cool, so it worked. Episode 2 was Screecher's Reach, and the first one was called The Sith. This one was by Cartoon Saloon, and I really liked this one. I thought the art style was really interesting. It reminded me a little bit of the original Clone Wars shorts, which is interesting because it's not exactly the same, but it had that kind of same style, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was cool. This kid basically exists in this really shitty environment, and she has this amulet which talks to her and gives her strength through this kind of like religious connection to it. Initially, you think it's because it's like a Jedi thing. Turns out it's not, but that's really, really cool. I thought it was interesting. And there was this kind of moment where it felt like they were just doing like the beginning of a hero story. This kind of like aspect where, the kid has a calling, but they refuse to call him, but then they go, and then they face their fears by literally going into the mountain, or down into the underworld in this case, in that kind of sense, in the Campbellian kind of vibe, and then they come back out changed, and they continue on adventures because they realize that noble life is no longer for them. This is more or less what happens here. There's kind of like a darker edge, darker twist to it, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was really, really good. And I think technically one of the main bad guy character in this was based on a Irish banshee, but as a Mexican, it reminded me a lot of like La Llorona, which is a folk tale about this woman that had her children die and her husband die, and so she walked in these like swamp areas crying like crazy for them, and so she became this kind of like banshee ghost lady. That's very cool, very enjoyable. I thought it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this one. This would be like a 10 out of 10. Well, not really, more like a 9 out of 10, because the Sith character in this one was not really my taste. I didn't really like how they were made. But 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, it's pretty good. It's in that range. Number 3 is called In the Stars, and I really enjoyed the family dynamic in this one. It's by Punk Robot Studios, but I didn't really enjoy the voice acting in this one. Again, I thought it was kind of weak, but it's not completely horrible. This one deals with this pair of native sisters who are the only people left in the world of their race. It kind of reminds me of that moment in Andor when they're in that grassy planet, right, where Andor's kind of helping them infiltrate the space. Reminded me a lot of that. And they have emotional tension between them because the little girl wants to do something using her mother's force abilities that she inherited, and her older sister doesn't want to. She just wants to survive, to kind of fight the Empire, and also kind of because she doesn't really like that her mom sacrificed herself for them in the way that she did, right? So it's kind of interesting. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting, and I'm not really sure if it was clay animated, like claymation, or if it was animated to look like claymation, CGI wise. I'm not really sure, but I thought it was enjoyable. It wasn't necessarily my favorite story, but it was pretty cool. I would give this like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10, which is cool. It's fine. Episode 4 was I'm Your Mother. This is by Aardvark Studios. I think they're the same ones that did those old stories. Crap, I don't remember what they were called, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about if you know this studio, right? So this one's interesting. Features 2 Twilights. One of them is mom, and the other one is her daughter, and they kind of are at odds with each other because teenagers and the parents sometimes don't jive. But her mother basically steps up and she's like, okay, my daughter's in fancy flight school. There's these kids that are making fun of her for being poor. I'm gonna join her and we're gonna do this family race together and we're gonna beat these people and it'll be really good, right? And I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really cute. It was really enjoyable. Not necessarily a super fan of the style, but I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the family dynamic, and overall, it was it got me in my feels. So I really like this one. It's a 10 out of 10 for sure. Episode 5 is Journeys in the Dark Head by Mir. This one is also a 10 out of 10 because I just really like the style. However, I don't think the story was necessarily the best that they could have come up with, but it was one that I thought was really, really good. It was very concise and it got to the heart of the matter very easily, and it was really, really good. It also reminded me a little bit of the last 2 episodes or so of Dragon Pilot, Hisone and Mazutan. You guys have seen that, so that's pretty interesting. It follows this young girl who is some sort of visionary in this kind of clan of force people that attend to a specific Jedi temple. She grows up eventually and she goes to the Jedi Council on Coruscant and she asks them to give her permission to do something in order to remove this taint on the light side of the force. They send the Jedi with her, and then this Jedi has to confront his darkness and the physical manifestation of this, which is a Sith character, which is awesome, very cool fight. And then they fight, they beat the Sith, and they manage to fulfill the prophecy that this girl saw in the positive version of it, right? So this one was probably my favorite one. Out of all of them, I think. This one is Creatures Reach at this point. And also this one is a 10 out of 10, like I said. So, yeah. Episode 6 was Spy Dancer. This one was by Cachette, I think, Studio Cachette. I don't remember their whole name, but this is from France. I really enjoyed this one as well. It was very different art-wise, and it didn't really harm it at all because it managed to represent the Imperials and the characters really, really well. It followed these women that seemed to be kind of like Zabraks or Night Sister type people. I don't think they were, but they kind of had that same look to them. And only the French would be like, what if we make them rebels, but also, exotic dancers? But it worked out really well. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good story. I would give this like a 8.5 out of 10. Basically, there's this cabaret thing that serves Imperial troops, and the point of it is to provide the dancer a way to bug these Imperial recruits and these Imperial troops in order to find out where they're going, what they're doing, so that they can pass the information along to the rebels, so that the rebels can use it to fight the Empire, which, overall, very good. I really enjoyed this one. Then we have episode 7, which is The Bandits of Golok. This one was by 88 Pictures. This one was from India. It was kind of weird because, when I heard that it was supposed to be an Indian story, where it was by an Indian studio, I did not expect it to be basically Western. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think it worked out pretty well, but I was expecting a little bit more, like, in line with, like, what I would think of India from an American perspective, and I heard that there was inspiration from, Indian mythology, and I didn't really see it, so that kind of was a little bit disappointing, but that's on me for having expectations that really don't correlate with anything, in reality, right? So, yeah, still, I really enjoyed this episode. It's kind of interesting because the art style felt like early seasons of the Clone Wars, and I'm not sure if that was done on purpose or if that was the same assets or what it was, but it was very interesting that it was so similar. I actually really enjoyed the story. It's this little girl and her older brother, Chirag, I think, on a train. The little girl has force powers, and her older brother is escorting her to a place where she will be safe and where she will be trained by this older lady Jedi. The thing is that the little girl is not really aware of this, and so she causes a lot of problems. Eventually, they manage to make it to the right place, and they kind of get stopped midway by this Inquisitor guy with a blue face and a really big mustache. And I really enjoyed this character a lot. He looked really badass, really interesting. And he fought against this older lady who also had lightsaber because she was a Jedi. Her lightsaber was really interesting because it was like this cane, and I guess there was a way for the two pieces of the lightsaber to connect, but that thing kind of like eroded and then reappeared. And I'm not really sure how that worked. I don't think it matters, but it was interesting because it was like a little bit of something that I paid attention to. It kind of bothered me when I didn't really understand how it worked. Right? Realistically, it doesn't matter how it works because it's not important, but it's something that should be paid attention to and on the creator side because people are going to have concerns and issues with it. Right? So I really liked her lightsaber. I thought it was cool. I didn't really like the fight scenes all that much because it felt like they couldn't really make them seem fast, and so in order to avoid that, they just made them slower and kind of made them seem like they were awesome action shots in slow motion. I think that was a very ingenious way of hiding the fact that they couldn't really make them fast, but I could still notice, and it also made it so that sometimes it was easier to notice that there were some issues with the way that they were animated. There was this one moment where the woman like twirls on one of her feet in this kind of like dance move to try to hit the guy on the ground, but her lightsaber was animated in such a way that it never really touched the ground, and the guy that she was trying to attack was like a foot behind where her lightsaber was hitting, and he was still trying to act like he was getting hit. So it was really weird, but it worked out, and I thought it was interesting. So yeah. I like this one. I don't think I've given it a rating yet, so I'll do it now. And it should be about a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. I thought it was enjoyable, but it still had a few issues here and there. Number 8 is The Pit. This is by Dark Studio, and I didn't really care about this one all that much. I didn't find it to be all that enjoyable, but I also didn't hate it. I thought it was kind of pretty bog standard. It didn't really even feel like it was Star Wars, so it is what it is. Also, the way that the story was resolved, I want to say it didn't make sense, and I think it didn't, but for what the point of the story was, which is like, people will help each other, as long as, they are true to their goodness, I think it works. However, it doesn't work because there's a certain level of logic that every world has to follow, and this isn't technically canon to Star Wars, so the logic can be slightly different, but there's this very clear lack of logic, because the way that they tried to solve the issue was by having all these people yell from this pit that literally went all the way to bedrock, and yelling, and it was like 150 people, so maybe it could get loud, but there's no way it could get loud enough to reach a city that was not near the hole, but rather far away from the pit, and then the people from the city managed to hear it, and then came down all the way, and then decided to do something. Like, it was a little bit too contrived for my taste, but it kind of worked. It's fine, I guess. It's not that big of a deal, but it was kind of definitely a worse off story than all the other ones. So I'd give this like a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, not completely horrible, but not really all that good either. It didn't really have too much Star Wars in it besides kyber crystals, but they were just kind of diamonds. They didn't really have a value to them, like intrinsic to Star Wars, right? Episode 9 was Awu Song, and this one was by Triggerfish. This one was probably the most visually interesting, but it's not necessarily a medium I like. It was this weird kind of like felt doll animation, which is really interesting. It's not really something I really loved, but the story in this one was really, really hauntingly beautiful. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really cute. And there was also these really good interactions between the little girl main character and her father, and I really enjoyed them a lot. And there was also these little kind of cute animations where they would eat, but they were like these like seal people, so they would do these really funky like eating animation, which is really cute as well. So overall, I really enjoyed this one because of the aspect of the song and the girl's voice and how it affected the Force. So really good stuff there. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed how they played with the Force here, and how the Force was very different depending on the person. It reminds me a lot of one of the best aspects of the High Republic, which is the visualization of the Force differs from person to person. And you can see this in the Sith, where the Force is paint, and then at Awu Song, where the Force is literally the voice of things. And it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I still think the first season was better for my taste because I really liked the anime aspect. But the stories here were interesting and different, and like in a more subjective sense, they were better because they were more about vibes and kind of like how you feel, and not necessarily about having objective, like, we reached this point in the story kind of aspects. However, as a person, I like the first side of things better, so I really enjoy this kind of more objective, like, we gotta hit all these story points in order for it to be good, right? So it really depends. Your mind is vary. I really enjoyed this season, and I really want another one. And I hope you guys did too. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.